Hi, everybody. This is Michael Schechter, welcoming you to the Way of Life Wednesday check-in. I hope you're finding success in the Way of Life program, but if you're not, remember, it's never too late to start. Human beings are capable of change, and this program will help you develop healthier relationships with food and hopefully manage your weight. Quickly, as we do in the check-ins, we will remind you of last week's session. Some of you were unable to join us, and I apologize for that, but that should no longer be the case, and we'll have no more technical difficulties. But we talked a little bit about the basis for the Way of Life diet and how it's grounded in science, and gave you some other diets that use similar approaches for a healthy relationship with food, and reminding ourselves that food can nurture us and protect us. We also talked in week 1 about establishing your why you're doing this program, and we want you to keep that in the front of your mind. You should be receiving week 2, have looked at week 2 materials by now. During week 2, we talk about the purpose of the plate and building healthy meals with nutrient-dense foods and avoiding calorie-dense foods that don't have a lot of nutritional value. There's also some examples this week of different menus and menu options that you can use to build your plate toward health. And if you so choose, we'd love to see some pictures of your purposeful plate, building that plate that will all protect you against heart disease and cancer and nourish you, and also provide you with the energy that you need to attack the day. We're going to talk a little bit about energy today and establishing a calorie budget. I know that Way of Life outlines some calorie ideas for people. But if you're more interested in the specifics of how many calories are right for you to either maintain or lose weight, I'm going to take you to what I think is a very interesting site and show you how you can establish a calorie budget based on science. Now, as a quick review, let's remember that we take in calories to provide us with energy. So we can expend that energy and burn the calories. And of course, the energy intake comes from any food or drink that contains calories, and the energy output goes in one of 3 directions. Through exercise, we burn calories, through digestion, and from our resting metabolic rate. Now, metabolism, I think it's important to take a look at certain things. There are things that are directly under our control and things that are a bit less directly under our control. So resting metabolic rate is sort of the energy your body uses to keep you alive. And that's pretty much the same for most people. There's also the thermogenic effect of food, and that's the amount of calories we burn digesting and absorbing food. But the real key is in the middle there, that active energy expenditure or physical activity component, because this is the part that's under your control. And if you are an active person, if you're spontaneously active, or if you practice and make a habit of exercise throughout the week, this is something that you can really increase the amount of calories you burn. And we'll talk a little bit about this throughout the course of the Way of Life program, but I want to remind you that this active energy component is under your control. So, a lot of diets talk to people about, a certain number of calories, just sort of coming up with a number. And of course, there are minimum numbers. We hear a lot, at least I hear a lot in medicine and in dietary circles, that no woman should go below 1,200 calories a day, because then our metabolism starts to slow down to conserve energy, and no man should go below 1,500 calories a day. So we sort of have some ground rules as far as things go. Those are very low amounts of calories. What I'd like to do is I'd like to take you and show you a website that is available for anybody through the National Agriculture Library. The address is right there, nal.usda.gov. And look for the DRI, which is the Dietary Reference Intake Calculator, to establish what your intake should be. And if you go to that site, you'll enter certain data, and I entered data for myself. A male, 61 years old, 5'9". I've been doing the Way of Life program, so I'm actually a little lower than 185, proud to say, and I've been exercising a lot. But what we have to do in addition to our age and gender and height and weight is enter our activity level. So there's 4 levels of activity that you can see there on the site, and you pick the one that most closely corresponds to your activity level. Now, what I wanted to show you is that exercise makes a really big difference. So I entered everything the same except for my activity level. And if you can see, and you might not be able to see this, but I wrote it out for you there, a sedentary person with my age and height and weight would require about 2,363 calories per day to maintain my weight. Now, remember, generally, we believe that for every 500 or every 3,500 calories we save, that's about a pound loss. So again, if we eat less than we burn, every 3,500 calories often represents about a pound of fat. So 2,363 for a sedentary Michael Schechter, but for a very active Michael Schechter, 3,458 calories. That's a difference of over 900 calories a day. And that's really wonderful. And again, that underscores the big difference that exercise makes. Now, as the weeks go on, we'll even talk to you about which exercise strategies promote the most weight loss. So there's something called high intensity interval training. There's sort of regular aerobic training. There's resistance training, and we also add in balance exercises and flexibility exercises. Those are all key to your physical needs and your physical development. But very active people, the bottom line here is we'll burn more calories and have more reserve in terms of eating. Now, there are also gender differences I'd like to point out. Again, I hope you go online and take this for yourself. Obviously, unfortunately for women, women have to eat a few less calories than men at a given height and weight. Again, there's a gender difference. There's also an age difference. So if you're younger, you burn more calories as well. But as I mentioned to you before, the thing that's really under your control is the amount of exercise. But if you take a look at this, a 61-year-old female, sedentary, almost 2,000 calories a day, very active, over 2,900. So again, underscoring the importance of exercise. But I think it's really helpful for you to go to this site and take a look at things. Now, not only will it give you calorie requirements, it'll give you dietary requirements in the form of macronutrients, carbohydrates, fiber, protein, and fat. And again, if you are interested in discussing your individual calorie requirements, remember, everybody listening to this video and everybody who's participating in Way of Life can talk to a registered dietitian at their convenience by just setting up an appointment. So again, the take-home message today, understand your calorie requirement, understand what your calorie budget's going to be. So again, if you want to lose some weight and you're a sedentary 61-year-old female, you're going to have to be below 1,990 calories. So again, getting into that neighborhood down around 1,600 or 1,500 calories a day. Please remember the importance of exercise and how it can increase your calorie burn. Now, limiting our calories means that at times we're going to feel hungry. When I was a Freedom from Smoking facilitator, we used to talk about managing tobacco cravings through the use of what we've called the 4Ds. And I think you can apply the same thing to managing your eating behaviors. So again, one of the first things I would tell you is always have water by you. If you're hungry, drink some water and see how that works. Your mental state is such a big part of your feelings and your emotions. Sometimes it's great to sort of sit back and relax a little. So we'll be talking about relaxation strategies in upcoming weeks. But most of the relaxation techniques that we will talk about begin with deep belly breathing. And again, I don't know if you can see my hand on my stomach, but belly breathing means on inspiration, we're pushing that belly out, and on expiration, we're using those core muscles. Now that pattern of breath stimulates a relaxation response and brings down our anxiety a little bit. And I believe that if you're feeling hungry, 10 deep breaths at the same time, keeping in mind your why are you doing this? For your health, for your appearance, for your children, reminding yourself of your whys will help you get through those times when you're just craving food and not truly physically hungry. That's the third D that I'd like to talk to you about, and that is determine the source of your hunger. There's physical hunger when we actually need food, and there's what we call emotional hunger. Sometimes we eat in response to our feelings or our thoughts. And I'm going to talk a bit about that on the next slide, but this is a nice breakdown of strategies to sort of discern being emotionally hungry when we really crave something. And usually we crave something that is a comfort food versus physical hunger when we'd be satisfied with anything really to eat at all. The fourth D in this case would be do something else. So I have a list here of 10 things to do instead of eating out of boredom. So instead of eating out of boredom, you know, I like exercising. You can't eat and exercise at the same time, which is nice. Organizing things, you know, learning to meditate, again, focusing on your why, or calling a friend or buddy. Again, some of us feel so alone out there when we're trying to make changes in our lives. It's so helpful to have a colleague or an ally as part of the process. One of the things that I'm going to sort of wrap up on today is talking just a little bit more about the feelings that go into our behaviors. So I'm going to introduce you to what I would call Psych 101, and this is the triad of thoughts and feelings and behaviors that go together. So I'm going to start with a negative feeling. So if I'm feeling sort of depressed or hopeless, it can lead to certain thoughts in my head. And I might think of like, well, you know, it's just not worth trying anymore. I'm going to fail anyway. So I am really feeling down, and that can influence my behavior. So I'm feeling sad and hopeless, and my thoughts are, it's just not worth trying this diet thing. And then my behavior becomes to go out and eat something that's not right for me. And then what happens after I do something like that? Well, then I get more bad feelings. I start feeling bad about myself, and that leads to more negative thoughts and potentially more unhealthy behaviors. So one of the keys to changing our behaviors is to recognize these negative thoughts or feelings and reframe them. And in psychology, they call these negative thoughts cognitive distortion, because it's a distortion of reality. We're not all failures. We don't have to feel like failures. If we're feeling depressed, we have to understand that it will color our thoughts. And sometimes we just have to make a stand against bad behaviors based on that. So again, think about the triad. Think about how your feelings influence your thoughts and how your thoughts can influence your behaviors. In terms of tips for success when it comes to this, work on staying positive. Try to catch those negative thoughts. It's not easy to do because sometimes they're so automatic for us. So if you're playing those negative tapes, stop that tape, okay, and insert a different one. Reorient yourself to reality. Keep in mind why you're trying this program. Whether it's for your health, food nourishes us, but it can also protect us. Food can protect us from cancer. Food can protect us from heart disease. Foods that we choose can protect us from diabetes. So remember your why. Find some support out there, people who understand your interest in changing and will support your success. And finally, continue to track your progress. Use the Way of Life app or website to track your exercise habits. Focus on that daily goal, okay? And again, begin to develop that food budget in your head so you have a sense of whether your intake is appropriate. Because accountability is important, but only when it leads to us feeling good about ourselves. So forgive yourself if you've had a bad day and move on to the next, because the real balance here, I talk a lot about balance when I talk to people about health. The real balance here is balancing accountability with self-forgiveness, and treat yourself as you would a friend or a colleague who's struggling. Don't beat yourself up. Remind yourself that tomorrow's another day and people are capable of change. So, in conclusion, take-home messages today, folks. Remember, calorie burn. Metabolism is influenced by a lot of factors, but most people of a given age, size, and gender have similar resting metabolic rates. The real difference is in how often these people exercise. Practice strategies to control your appetite, understand your body's cues, begin to separate that emotional hunger from true physical hunger. Now, before I sign off today, I did forget to introduce Lauren Charnas, who is does a million things here at Be Well Solutions, including being an account manager, but also helping us design programs like Way of Life to help people develop strategies for change. So Lauren's here with me. She's monitoring any of the chat. Remember, if you liked this or if you think a friend might benefit from this quick message, midweek message, these recordings will be available on our YouTube channel, on the Way of Life YouTube channel by the end of today. And you'll be able to take a look at that in case you missed anything. I hope that we see you next Wednesday. Feel free to give us through the chat responses or through emails any feedback that you have to help us get the most out of Wednesday check-ins. Last time we did these Wednesday check-ins, we included polls, but this time we're holding off because so many people watched them through the recording. So, if there's anything that you believe will make things more interactive, or if there's any comments you'd like to share right now, feel free. We'll take a couple seconds. And if there's nothing, then we will sign off and see you next week. So Lauren, do we have anything? Lauren says we don't have anything today, but listen, thanks to everybody who signed in. And again, if you know anybody who might benefit from this, remind them that this recording will be available online. Again, till next week, thanks for coming, and we'll see you next Wednesday.